Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Oh, so 2020's been crazy, right? I mean, just to make sure that there's no one out there that's, not aware of that. And it's about ready to come to an end, and a new year is here. And while throughout 2020, a lot of people, let's just say the blind masses, have been hopeful and believing that, maybe once this year's over, 2021 will be a year of bounce back and recovery and normalcy and a better year than 2020. That maybe this was just some kind of a fluke, just a strange anomaly of a lot of craziness happening all in one year. But at least from the feel that I'm seeing and hearing from people, I think there's less and less people that are believing that 2021 is going to be a whole lot better. In fact, I think the general consensus that I have seen in my small world is that 2021 is probably setting us up for a big kick in the pants. That 2020 was just a precursor, a beta test, a warm up for the big stuff that's getting ready to happen. And I kind of tend to believe that is the case. When you see the long-term effects of what's going on right now in 2020, the stuff that's probably going to happen, at least what we're being told in whispers and soft disclosure, I think we're in for a pretty rough year. And to be honest with you, I think we're in for several rough years. So this preparedness thing that we talk about often on here, especially since this year began. If you want to go back on some of my videos back in January and February when I was telling people, and many others like me, I'm not patting myself on the back. I wasn't doing anything a bunch of other channels weren't doing. You need to get ready for this, folks. It's gonna be a rough one, and I said from the beginning, it wasn't even whether or not there was really a bug out there that was so deadly. It was how people perceived it. It was their perception. And that was the dangerous part. And then since then, there's been so many other things. But I want to point out just some things that I have noticed floating around online. Most of it was in the news, sometimes back page kind of news, over the past, I'm going to say 2 weeks. And I'm only pointing this stuff out because there's obvious big things that's going on. If you watch mainstream news, which I really don't, I get on and I watch maybe little clips on YouTube if I see something that, I want to hear their opinion. But we don't even have TV service, so I don't watch it. But if you did watch it, the biggest things in the news that's dominating is this new, VAX that's coming out that everybody's going to get, and it's going to make the world a better place. But you still need to do social distancing. You still need to wear a face covering. You still need to do all these things. We still need to lock down stuff. We still need to, only have essential businesses and essential employees. But this thing is a miracle cure, and it's going to cure it. But we still need to do all this stuff, right? And then also the praise and honor and worship of the, president-elect and his brilliance of forming a new team. And then some of us that watch alternative news sources, are getting obviously a lot of the election fraud and the adjudication of that, the litigation and all the court cases and everything that's going on, right? But there's other stuff. Not to scare anyone, but if you haven't heard, the sun produced a quite large coronal mass ejection a couple of days ago, and it's headed towards Earth. This is not, from what I can tell, any kind of fake news. you can get on numerous websites, and they show all kinds of graphs and studies and computer simulations and all this kind of stuff that and we know talking about the grand solar minimum, if you guys follow that much, CMEs tend to happen a lot more during a grand solar minimum. And there's been a few over the last few days, few weeks. This one seems to be a pretty good size one, and it's headed straight for us. They estimate it'll hit us in about a day or two. Now, from what I'm hearing and reading, that they don't expect it to be one of these really big ones that's going to take out an entire electric grids. It may affect satellites, which that in itself is major. I know that most of you know this, but a lot of people don't realize how much of everything that goes on funnels through satellites. It's not just GPS, and it's not just, you know, Google Earth and stuff like that, but pretty much the entire internet at some point filters through satellites, and banking systems go through satellites, all that kind of stuff. So if it knocks out a few satellites, that could, affect things. TV, radio, things like that are also would be affected with satellites. What I was reading, though, is that they believe that it could cause increased earthquake activity. But the point is that there is a CME coming. You should do a little research on it. It wouldn't hurt to get yourself a little bit prepared for that over the next 24 to 48 hours. My gut feeling is it's not a big panic event, but it does look like we could feel a little bit of the effects of it. But that's just some of the things going on. I mentioned earthquakes. Do you know that earthquakes this year have been many, many times more than normal? This has been a very unusual year for earthquakes. In fact, one person that I follow on Twitter, and I haven't done the math. This is just an individual. This is no official number. He claims that he's added them all up, and that the global earthquake count this year is about 1,000 times more than normal. That seems a little high, but I do know that back in the spring, I was crunching some numbers, and at that point, the United States had experienced several hundred more than normal. So maybe that his number isn't too far off. The hurricane season was crazy. Many more hurricanes than normal. Asteroids and meteorites and things that flying close to the Earth. Did you know that this year there have been numerous, much more than ever before in any other year on record, there have been more space rocks fly between the moon and the Earth, or at least the distance between the moon and the Earth, and some of them basically to the point of ricocheting off of our atmosphere. And not only there's been more of them, but the two largest near-Earth objects ever recorded in history, the top two in size, happened this year also. So there's been a lot of activity in that area, which is strange. There's also been some other weird space activities. I'm not saying that I believe in them or not. I'm just regurgitating stuff that's been online. Back a few months ago, many of you remember that the Pentagon seemed to admit that aliens did exist. They released some footage of an unidentified flying object and alluded to the fact that it possibly could have been from outer space. And then just recently, another photograph was leaked from the Pentagon of an unidentified flying object. And there was also some documentation leaked with it, some classified documents. And in those documents, it stated that the Pentagon believed that aliens were here and that they were basically hiding underwater. They had built underwater bases in the ocean. Interesting. And then just a couple of days ago, an American-based Jewish newspaper, which I did some research because sometimes these little small newspapers are known to be kind of quackery. This one is a legitimate source. The Jewish Press newspaper released an article that they did an interview with the former head of Israel's space program, and he claims that in fact there are aliens, and that America and Israel and a few other countries has been in contact with them for years, and we work together with them, and we have a joint space station on Mars and underground base stations here on this planet, and that the aliens have said that they don't believe that Earthlings, the masses, are ready to be told that they exist. So that's why the government is keeping it hush hush. That's strange. There's some, and I'm not saying that I believe all this stuff. I'm just telling you what's in the news, right? Um, and it does seem to be that story. I did a little research because I heard it and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. But there's some crazy stuff. And I did a little bit of digging, spent a little time, and it seemed to be from a very credible source. Um, there's some people that believe that they do exist, and that's what all this craziness is to get us ready because of all the nuts and crazy and panic to unveil that there are alien beings. There's also people that don't believe that they exist, and that the plan is to make it look like that they exist. And then, sorry, I have a flashlight in my pocket, and I realized it was on because it was getting a little warm. There's people that believe that they don't exist, and that the government is building all this little soft disclosure psyop hype so that they can unveil them, introduce them to the world, but it would actually be, holographic images and stuff. If you want to look up Bluebeam, Project Bluebeam, um, that would probably, and that's some real hardcore conspiracy stuff. So get your aluminum foil hat out when you do that. I'm not saying either way. All I'm saying is that in my entire lifetime, I have never seen a year when there's been more officially unofficial soft disclosure of UFO alien life. Usually the government, it's just, we don't say anything. We don't admit to anything. We don't even, it's not even a no comment. It's no comment, nothing. And then this year there's been a lot of that. Strange. Um, let's see, what else is there? Oh, of course. There's all the election stuff. I mean, he won, he lost, they're waiting in court, they're losing in court. Uh, Now there's a lot of stuff that's interesting, which I'm sure most of you watching aren't surprised at this. It just seems that there's a lot of information kind of coming to point out some proof that China has been very involved in this. Um, there was a video. There's a video floating around of a Chinese professor, a high-ranking member of the Communist Party there, basically saying since the 70s that he knows for a fact that they have operatives within Wall Street and the government, that they basically control what's going on. That the Chinese government have people in very high places, and that they control everything. They control our stock markets, they control the government, and the reason why that they have put so much effort into getting Donald Trump out is because he doesn't play their game, and that they have thrown all of their effort into getting him out of office so that they can get someone back into office that will play along with them and let them be in charge. And this guy even says that man has been Biden. It's interesting because that video was leaked or posted on some type of Chinese social media network site, and then it was quickly removed. But of course, someone captured the video before it was deleted. It's interesting. There's another a news article that was posted a year ago on a Chinese website that Google has banned, and the page has since been deleted. And it was an article about Chinese diplomats coming and meeting with the governor of Georgia last year um, about election stuff and all that kind of stuff. It was kind of an interesting And of course, if you've been following this, Georgia's been a hot place, and there's been a lot of accusations that the governor of Georgia has accepted money to get, these systems in place to flip the vote. It's interesting that those Chinese diplomats in this article were from the Houston, Texas Chinese consulate, the one that was shut down, and that there have been suspicion that that was the consulate that they were distributing fraudulent voter ballots. Sorry, my mind just went blank. So that's interesting. I mean, I could really go on and on with all the craziness that's happening. There's been so much out there. And in the past, most of the things that come out like that, it's just a whisper, a rumor, a conspiracy theory, and a lot of times there's not a lot of meat to it to lend you to believe that there's some truth to it, unless you're just the type that just automatically believes this stuff. But if you really dig into it, a lot of times in the past, it's like, I mean, it sounds plausible, but there's no evidence there to indicate this may be true. This year it's been different. There's been a lot of evidence to indicate some of this stuff is true. Now, is this real evidence or is this doctored evidence? Are we living in a psyop? I think maybe that's the point to this video. What part of it is a distraction from the other, or is it all distraction? Because all of this seems to be a big war between globalists and nationalists. I talk about that over on Patreon. We have the Great Reset, which is obviously a globalist endeavor and an anti-capitalist endeavor to thrust this upon us. There's this VAX thing that they're wanting to force everyone or strongly compel everyone to take, which is strange when it's a bug that only really is dangerous for a fraction of a percent of the population. And if you look at the current numbers, just going by their official numbers, it seems to be kind of leveling off and even kind of slowing down in some states. So it makes you wonder, why would you risk taking something that's had very little time to study, even if you don't believe all the DNA modification stuff, all that, just the fact that it's not had enough time to really study any long-term effects. Why would you risk taking that and spend so many billions of dollars putting something into your body for a bug that seems to be kind of fizzling out and it isn't really that dangerous to begin with? Strange. And then what about 2021? Well, the Great Reset. Remember that? 2021 is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Yes, that's right. It starts December 21st of 2020. And it's not just a hippie thing. There's a lot of people in the dark world of Luciferian, satanic people that are in high places, prominent places. They believe it's their time. That's part of what the age of Aquarius is for them. So that's interesting. And if you do a little digging on that, you'll find that there's a little bit more to that. That these people in these high places, elite, globalists and stuff that believe this way, they kind of believe it's their time because of the new dawning of the new age. Even if you don't care about that kind of stuff or don't believe it, just look at actual numbers. The economy, I believe it's going to be pretty rough. They estimate already there are at least 12 million households in the United States that are at least $5,000 behind on their rent. This expectation that come December 31st, when the moratorium on evictions is expired, that there's between 30 and 40 million people in the United States that will be going through evictions and foreclosures. 30 to 40 million people. You look at all the other stuff that's these programs that are kind of dying off, the extension and on unemployment. um, the moratorium on student loans, a lot of programs that were put in place because of this health crisis are expiring over the next, few weeks. And there doesn't seem to be anything to kind of extend them. And I'm not big on government programs, but when you also have the big black boot of the government on your throat telling you you can't go to work or you can't open your business, some of them, some places are that way. Around here, not so much, but there are many places that that's the case. Then what are you supposed to do? When they're arresting people because they're trying to just have a business and sell, hamburgers or cut people's hair. I mean, this is a pretty serious thing that we're, involved in here. That you can't even have a job and make money. And then if you can't do that, then well, who's going to take care of you? Someone has to. I mean, if they're by force, I'm all big on capitalism, but if they're using force to prevent you from taking care of your family, then the government should be taking care of them, I think. I mean, I know it goes against capitalism and free markets, but hey, but then that's not happening either. So what's going to happen to the economy when all that stuff, when that dam finally burst through, that's been held back for all these months because of all these programs put into place, all the money that the Fed's been printing? We're nearing $30 trillion in debt, and that's not all the unfunded stuff of Social Security. It's all going to come to a head, and it could very likely happen in 2021. So, to wrap this up, there's been some crazy stuff happening this year, and it's not slowing down. We've only got a few weeks left of this year, and it seems to be getting crazier. And I know I've mentioned some pretty off the wall stuff, but I've only mentioned stuff that's out there. 2021 doesn't look any better, folks. So if you're able to prep up any more than you already have, I encourage you to do so, to prepare yourselves, because there's a lot of craziness out there, and I think that we're about to see us go through a time that none of us ever thought we would live to see. All right, folks. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.